Well, it seems that we were absolutely wrong about these 2026 regulations in that they would be a mess, because instead they seem like they're absolute chaos. Way worse than we expected, and there's a lot that we learned from testing. Let's jump into it on this episode of the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast.
Welcome to the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast. Now here's a bald guy and some Indian.
Hey man, how are you?
Pretty good, surprised, confused, a lot of things. Let's talk about Formula One, right?
Yeah. And where to begin? Like, there's so much going on.
I think we should start with the surprising Cold War between Lando and Max.
Yeah.
So should we start with that?
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start from.
Let's go for it then. Okay, so first of all, just to set the table, so Max gave his first interview yesterday where he talked about the cars and everything, and he didn't hold back. And in his view, the regulations, they were anti-racing. That's what he called it. He said it was basically Formula E on steroids. He's right. He's right. If you've seen Formula E, it seems a bit similar. It would, but yeah, let's see. Then ultimately he was, and as is generally the case, he was asked that, okay, if these are the regulations and you're not happy, what does it mean for your future? And he said, of course it doesn't make my future better. It doesn't. The cars are not exciting in any which way, so it doesn't. And then Lando Norris was questioned about the regulations. He said, yeah, okay, the cars are different. The challenges, usually with every new regulations, we have a different challenge. The same is the case here. And then Max's comments were put to him and said, yeah, if he wants to, he can retire.
Yeah.
Which was interesting, understandable, but where do you stand on the whole thing?
Well, as for the comments like of Lando, for example, like, to be honest, I'm kind of happy with drivers like just saying what they think of things and just like, you know, bashing other drivers. Like, I feel like we've talked about this before, like drivers are all too nice. And then the fan base is obviously just depending on whether you're a Max fan or a Lando fan. They're like, oh, what an idiot, or, you know, so whatever. But like, to be honest, if that's what he thinks, that's what he thinks. Like, they should just say what they think. It's more entertaining for us than them just going, well, you know, that's, you know, the usual like media party lines that they all give. And I think you're going to hear more of that from Lando now that he's become a champion. So he's kind of in that group of people who can finally kind of say whatever they want, whenever they want, for the most part, as is kind of tradition in Formula One. You know, they're all very quiet until they win a championship, and then you just see them say whatever they think.
I mean, Lando used to say a lot of things.
He used to say, yeah, and he'd always kind of take them back. I feel like this Lando is kind of just like, I'll say what I want now. I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, which is fine. And like Max has been doing that for a long time, especially after 2021. And I like that Max will kind of just say what he thinks, which is great. Even in 2021, he was doing it anyway, but more so after the championship. As for the actual regulation set and what Max was saying, I think this was like partly inevitable, and we kind of all expected to have some of this because we knew, like, for the engines to be kind of run in a certain way with these regulations, there was going to be a lot of driver management that needs to be put in, because obviously with the regulations as such, you can't just have the ECU manage all of the things all of the time. It can manage a certain amount of the electrical discharge and recharge and so on, but the drivers kind of have to manually set things. So this was to be expected. The amount is basically the difference. And I wonder if with different engines, the recharge and the way the systems work are kind of better figured out than others, because the Mercedes drivers, and not just like Lando Norris, it's like all of the Mercedes cars basically have been like, yeah, it's just something we need to get on top of. Whereas you've heard with, like, say, Perez with the Ferrari engine and Red Bull with Max kind of talked about having to manage that more than the others. So I wonder if, you know, certain engine manufacturers are having an easier time or a harder time with it. But also we've seen how good the Red Bull is in the straight line. So maybe it's just the amount they have to manage. But that being said, I think regardless, this is just something we kind of expected. And it's going to be interesting to see how much management they have to do throughout a race. And I'm more concerned about after this test than I was after kind of Barcelona. It seems like they're all basically saying, yeah, there's a ton of management we have to do. And it seems a bit concerning, right? That we could just have like management races more. Like, because last year we had management races of some lifting codes for fuel, but mainly managing tires. So you'd have like 20 laps of managing a tire and then like 4 laps of pushing flat out. And we were all saying like it'd be so much better if they just kind of had to push flat out like more. And now this seems like we could get a much worse version of that, where we get maybe 2-3 laps of exciting racing and then like, oh, we have to manage the recharge now for 60 laps. You know what I mean? Like that's, I don't know. Hopefully we get 4 laps of exciting racing, I suppose. I'm worried about that as well.
Wow. Way to start a podcast.
Yeah. I was really optimistic about these regulations last week. And I don't know, this week, it feels like after Barcelona, it was like, oh, okay, this might not actually be that bad. The cars look good. All the teams look relatively close. Even right now, they look relatively close as well. Like, I know it's testing, but after more and more I'm hearing from factories, drivers, everything, I'm like, oh, this all looks good in testing, but when they all have to kind of adhere to the fastest car, this is going to be really boring and a mess. So I'm concerned.
Yeah. So if you're a viewer, essentially you won't really see much of a difference as such. Mm-hmm. For them, it's going to be hard to discern what's going on. For them, it's simply fast cars driving around, right? Because unless and until you are a very hardcore fan, it's very hard to, see, to notice those differences where the drivers are being forced to rev the engines at lower gears to ultimately recharge the battery in slower sections so that they can exploit it in the faster ones. So essentially what has happened is, and in the previous set of regulations, we had 20% electric part. So I think 120 kilowatts was what they were producing.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And now that value has shot up to 450.
350, no? Maybe I'm wrong.
Sorry, yeah, you're right.
Something
it's
like
3
that,
times.
anyway.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
It's 3 times. So it's 350 kilowatts.
Yeah.
So now that value, what it means essentially is that in the previous set of regulations as well, there was a certain level of lift and coast we used to do. But essentially what used to happen in that case was most of the energy that was converted to electric energy was your braking. And in those particular sections, your 120 kilowatts was actually recharged. It was enough. You didn't really have to go out of your way. I mean, you did to a certain extent, but it wasn't as extensive. Now what has happened is that specific part where you would recharge your batteries, that has tripled. Mm-hmm. And the efficiency of the entire power unit and the entire processes, they are limited to a certain extent. It's not to that extent that you can go back to the system that existed in the previous set of power units. So what it essentially means is, in these 4 years, when we have these power units, what's going to happen is, this is from the driver's point of view. From a viewer, you are not really going to see much of a difference. Yeah. If someone who just follows the sport for storylines and basic racing, he won't really see much of a difference. He'll see fast cars going around. It would be pretty much the same.
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Just more boring, because he'll be like, why is there less overtakes, or why is there weird overtakes?
A bit of it, yes. Because what's going to happen here is, the overtake thing, we'll talk about it a bit later in the podcast. Yeah. So essentially, why Max is pissed off is, his view is that when I'm attacking corners, I'm not really attacking corners. I'm going slow intentionally. And the reason why I'm going slow intentionally is I'm trying to regenerate power in my regenerate the electric battery. Why? Because that power will be dumped on the straights.
Yep.
It's the entire game in 2026 and so on is going to be, these cars will be forced to go slower through the slow speed sections, or even the other part of the track, so that they can push on the straights. Yep. Most of the lap times will be made on the straights, right? So what it essentially does is it's anti whatever ethos a driver has had in the past, where when you one of the key highlights of a race weekend, what did it used to be? It used to be the final qualifying lap, where a Max Verstappen, a Lando Norris, or anyone was right at the edge of the grip of the tires, and
Pushing
they were
for that
pushing
last
like
hint.
anything.
Yeah.
Here, what's going to happen is, and maybe this would be visible or not, I'm not entirely sure, but you cannot do that. You cannot do that here because most of your lap time, it will be made on the straights. If you are pushing too much in those low speed sections or in the corners, you're essentially leaking lap time.
Yeah.
So you're
It's
so the places
Sorry,
where you
go.
made up lap time, that's not going to be the places that you made lap time, it's going to be less spectacular. So your straights, as we've seen already, the amount of lap time they're making on the straights, they are just rockets, these cars.
Yeah.
But they are ridiculous. They can't be pushed in the other sections, which is where it's leading to a lot of, you can say, pain.
The way to put it as well is like this is like an extreme version of like the differences between cars in some way. Like we used to have like some cars would be better in low speed corners, some would be better in high speed corners, that kind of thing, right? So obviously the drivers would then like play to the strengths of their cars, but they're still pushing in each corner to the limit of that car. It's just they know that like, okay, I won't like give it all through the high speed because I can kind of save the tires, go quicker through the low speed, whatever it is, right? But this is now you're just playing full strategy but with energy. So it's like, okay, there's no point me trying to push through the low speed sections as quick as I can. Instead, I should go even slower through those because I can make up 2 seconds on the straights. And it's like it just becomes it just becomes a dull exercise then. So I think people will notice it, but not, I think you're right in the way you're saying it though. Like they will notice it, but not in like the nuances. They'll just be like, why are these guys just not pushing at all through these corners? Like, why does it look so slow here? Like, why is no one pushing at any point, you know? It could make it really, really dull. And I think he's right. Like that's not what Formula One's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about like pushing the absolute limits, and I don't know if pushing the absolute limits of energy management is what any of us signed up for when we started watching Formula One, you know?
Yeah.
So thanks, Audi.
It is problematic. And again, the extent to which they're doing right now, by the end of the season, it will decrease because again, these power units will get more and more efficient. But it's 50% of the power that they're producing. So they'll have to do it regardless. There's no other way.
Yeah.
Now, before you jump ahead, guys, what's your take on the whole Max and Lando thing? Which side are you on?
Yeah.
I'll give my take later, but whatever your view is, drop in the comments. Let us know. I'm actually intrigued about this one because I even shared it on X as well. So my view is slightly different when it comes to this because I think I'm perceiving it in somewhat a different manner because I think it's basically both of these drivers, their comments are essentially a reflection of what stage of the career they are in right now. Because I mean, even Max said it in his the audio file, but he specifically mentioned was, look, I've been in Formula One for a decade. I've achieved all I needed to achieve. I've done everything. Now for me, Formula One racing is all about fun.
Yeah.
This isn't fun. So once it isn't fun, it makes me question what's the point of it. And that direction is where it becomes hard for me to, be as excited to drive this car. So I'm going to push as much as I can. I'll be 100% committed. But that doesn't mean that I like these cars. On the other hand, you have Lando. And I think because Lando is at a very different stage in his career compared to Max, where he's essentially a driver who is still climbing up the mountain. He is a world champion, but again, no, he hasn't proved himself against Max, right? That is still there. He's not someone who has achieved everything he wanted to achieve in Formula One. He's not there for fun. What he's there in Formula One, what he's there for is essentially achieve as much as he can, gain as much success as possible. And what that means is whatever Formula One is right now, he'll adapt and he'll get on with the job. I think that's the key difference. And I think this is something that's been evident with Leclerc as well, with George as well. And both of them have recently commented. And even though they are not essentially the fan of these regulations, they're not really complaining as such.
Yeah.
And I think it's just different. They have different approaches, right? They're at different stages of their careers. They're not really, both have a different, you can say, want. That's why they are racing. For one, it is all about whatever I can achieve. That's Lando. For Max, it's like, look, I've achieved all I wanted to. I also want to have fun.
I don't know.
That's
I
the real
personally
case.
think it's different. I think Max is just a bigger Vettel fan than us. That's what I think this comes down to, because he's basically trying to replicate Vettel's exact career. Only getting
going to
4
Ferrari now.
titles. Yeah, only getting 4 titles with Red Bull, losing the 5th one, then complaining about the new regulation set and how much management there needs to be. If you remember, Vettel completely like whitewashed the turbo
I was
hybrid
actually about
era.
to say that.
Yeah.
So
So
what? Right. If you
He's just a
remember,
huge Vettel fan, and I think I appreciate that.
If you remember 2014 or
14,
even
yeah.
2013, right? How much Vettel was against the
He
the
went on a
changed
rant.
turbos,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if you remember how much Hamilton was in favor of the newer
Yeah.
regulations, one of the reasons was again Lewis
Performance.
had performance, yes. Plus also Lewis had not achieved what he wanted to in Formula One at that point. So for him, it was he was in the boat that Lando is right now, where again
Yeah.
there is substantial success, but he is not. The hunger is still there. For Vettel, it was about okay, I've conquered the sport for 4 years. Fine, I'll race. Everything's fine, but where's the motivation? And these
Yeah.
cars suck.
Yeah.
And I think Max is on a similar boat when it comes to that. So,
Yeah.
Seems to be that's maybe the diverging factor between the two. I might be
Yes.
wrong, but it seems that maybe that's where the
Yeah,
whole
I
thing is
mean, I
heading.
think Max like obviously wants to win, but also, like he clearly is at the point in his life where he's proven what he needs to prove. So he wants to win and have fun here. And I kind of got the feeling of like, I'll stick around and win if I can, but I would rather do it while having fun, So like,
Yeah.
if I have to do it without the fun, I'll do it without the fun. But you're going to see me do more GT racing if this continues, essentially. That's what
Yeah.
I reckon. Whereas you can get it, like Lando is, he has achieved what he dreamt of, but he hasn't, he's got more to prove, more to do.
Yeah.
And like, obviously he's just going to get on top of it. The question will be, like I said, though, I mean, if we get to a situation where we're kind of 3 races in and we realize, yes, the Red Bull is very good, but Max is having to do way more management than, say, the McLaren, that could also tell us, maybe that's why, Lando and George weren't complaining as much, like their engine didn't need as much
Could be.
of this management. It might be down on horsepower, but we'll talk about that in
I mean, the management
while.
is going to be the case with almost everyone.
I think so too, but I think
whatever we've seen, right? It's nonsense.
I think so too, but it will be interesting to see if it turns out that like certain engines don't need as much as, say, the Red Bull, and that could be why the other drivers are going, why is he complaining? Like, this is fine,
Yeah.
It's a little bit more than last year, but not that much,
Yeah.
Who knows? I guess we'll see over the first few races when they're properly pushing.
Yep. Tell me one more thing, and this is a bit of a Again, I was asked this one by someone in the comments. Why do you think Verstappen continues to talk about retirement as much?
I don't know. Like, I think he's talked about this for a long time, right? And like, the thing is, he always said, I guess he didn't want to be like chasing this into his 30s. Like, he didn't want to be like the other guys, like just spending his whole life doing it.
Yeah.
I wonder if it is like, when you think about his life compared to the other drivers, like this, I'm not going to Yos bash as much as I want to, but like the other
Why
drivers,
not?
like
Why not?
But what I mean is, like, the other drivers, like, say a
It's
Lando
always
Norris,
fun if you do that.
but like, say a Lando Norris, even like if we go back to a Sebastian Vettel, for example, like these guys grew up, found something that they loved, that they were good at, and their parents supported them into it. Like they built them, or they built a life around them to kind of support them in that push. Lando Norris was looking at other stuff, fell into Formula One, I think at like age 8, something like that. Vettel was very early. It was like age 3. He was in a go-kart. Like, he found it early, loved Schumacher. But these were kids who basically found this sport that they loved. Their parents got behind them and pushed them. Max was very much like, grew up, and his father was like, okay, I'm going to try that. He's into it. Let's go. Like, I'm pushing him to do it. And Max's dad basically pushed him to do it. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, Max essentially was pushed into this sport from, I think, day one, and like was pushed to be this world champion from day one. And I think as much as he loves it and as much as he wants to do it, I still think there is something in the back of his mind that like this wasn't really my choice and I want to explore everything else. And I think he maybe in the back of his mind is still like, I want to make sure I don't like get stuck doing this till I'm 35, 36, 37. And there's other sports, even in motorsport, that I am then too old to get into, you know, or there's other parts of life that I've kind of let slip by. So I wonder if that's the difference. Whereas like, if you think about it for like a Lando Norris, a Vettel, a Verstappen, or a Vettel, a Hamilton, this was their choice from a young age. This is what they wanted to do from a young age. So I think there is that difference, you know, like as much as we can love something in life, if it's not really your choice to do it, you kind of don't want to do it forever. So I wonder if there's that in the back of his mind, you know, it's like, I want to keep going with this, but the moment I really stop like wanting to do this, I'm out because I've already achieved everything. I've done what I was here to do. And, you know, this wasn't my choice. You know what I mean? Like there is a big difference there.
Do you think there's a part of him which thinks that there's no challenge left in Formula One for him?
Yeah, I think that could be it too. Because like, I mean, if you want to pick a completely different...
What I mean is essentially he views the entire grid, the entire Formula One grid right now, and he doesn't see a single driver that he has to one up.
Oh yeah, I think he thinks that as well. Like I think that's a similar attitude in some ways to like an Alonso who feels like if I get the car, like it's not me, it's the car. If I had the right.
But Alonso is still trying to prove himself.
Sure, but I mean Alonso's talk before, if you think about it, back in the day, I think now he's trying to prove himself.
Yesterday.
Yeah. But my point is more
what he said. Fernando Alonso's quote is, I am better than Lewis Hamilton, Michael Schumacher, Max Verstappen, and Sebastian Vettel. Mm-hmm. I can't comment about Senna because I never saw him.
Yeah. But I think Alonso had the same attitude if we go back even like 2012. But I think if you play that out 8-9 years, obviously a part of you is going to be like, I need to now prove it again to myself. Whereas Max has just proved it to himself. He like, give it another 8 years, maybe Max will be like, shit, am I still as good as these people? But at the moment, he knows in his head he's as good. I think it's like a computer game though as well, right? When you think about it, like if a computer game is super fun up until you start winning, and when you start winning the game every single time with ease, even the winning starts to get boring at some point. It's like, okay, I need a new challenge. And I think Max probably knows like the challenge is no longer me in reality, it's the engineers. Like if they don't give me the right car, I can't win. If they give me the right car, I'll beat all these guys. So maybe there is that thing in the back of his mind is like, how long do I want to wait for a good car? Like if I get one, great. If I don't,
not even that. It's just that this season Max can win the championship. I don't think it would come as a surprise if he wins the championship.
Yeah,
I think he can.
I'm still on
whatever I got to know. I think he can.
Oh yeah, but I'm still on my original prediction. Remember,
Fernando Alonso.
From day one, I've said that Red Bull will come up with a car that I reckon could even win the first race. But it's the end of the season I want to see.
I think it won't be seems whatever I've heard, they are in decent shape.
Because Horner can build a really good team.
We'll get to that specifically. Yeah. There are so many things. This podcast is going to last long. So the reason why I'm specifically talking about the challenge thing is because again, specifically there was a comment on X on one of my posts where I actually saw this thing. So it seems to me, and I might be entirely wrong, what Max has seen is around 2020 and 2019 was the first time when Horner said that he is the best driver in Formula One now. And by 2021, he proved it. He was quite clearly the best driver. But since then, what has happened is he has continued to... There's been no point where a driver has closed the gap on him. It's been the contrary, where the gap has continued to increase. And what that has done is it has taken us to a point where last year, even if he didn't win the championship, it's safe to say by some margin that he was the best driver on the grid. And he has reached a point where it's not only that he's winning or that he's considered the best driver. For him, there's a scenario where there is no competition. If there is a best car if everyone is given the same car, I don't think he views Formula One as a sport where there's anyone on that grid that can actually beat him. And this is on one side, it is a very you can say, very interesting place to be. But on the other side, it is also, it can deflate your excitement and motivation, because what are you getting up for?
Yeah,
I think there's an element of that is also playing with him. Maybe, but let's see.
Yeah. I'm sure it plays in the back of his mind.
Yeah, because
I think, look, with anything like this, you still want a challenge. Like you can only enjoy just flat out being the best and winning for so long. Like you have to have some sort of challenge, otherwise it's going to get boring.
even last season, right? He almost won a championship while half-arsing it in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
He was driving like Max does, but his heart wasn't in it. I continue to double down on this thing. I think if Max of 2021 was driving in 2025 in that last race in Abu Dhabi, he would have backed the fuck up.
Yeah,
He would
weird.
not have cruised around.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that he thinks he's conquered Formula One. I think that's the whole thing, and that's why he's like, okay, fine, I'll drive this way, I'll win, I'll go home with $1 million, fine. He's got more money than God right now. Well, it's reached a point where money is not a motivating factor, and
I don't know. God has all that Saudi money, so I don't know if that's.
Apparently Max also does, right? Anyway, talking about Saudi then, let's talk about the Saudi-backed team.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Aston Martin.
I mean, this was like... Can I just toot my own horn for a minute?
Do anything, but don't put a lipstick on that ugly pig. That's the only thing I'm asking.
Yeah. But like, can I just toot my own horn for a second? So far,
whenever I ever stopped you from doing that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when I'm always doing it anyway. The only thing bigger than my head is my ego. I will say, so far, I'm pretty damn happy with most of my predictions for preseason. Like the way I talked about everything, because like even I said, I was like, I think Red Bull will have an amazing start to the season. I think they could win races, and we'll talk about them more later on. But I was like, I think they're going to have a situation where it'll be a downward trajectory. And I said, I think Aston will have a really difficult start to the season, but I think it'll be like an upward trajectory. And that's how I feel.
It can only be upward, man.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But my point was like, I think they'll have a difficult start to the season, but I think they'll really
assume it's
ramp
going
up.
to be this bad?
I really wasn't sure. Maybe not this bad. No, maybe not this bad, but I thought it would be bad. Because I think like you've got so much to kind of put together that I think the start of the season was always going to be a mess. And I guess I didn't realize how far behind even like Nui and the team kind of started on the car as well. Plus, I think Honda is even further behind than I thought they were. But at the same time, I think like I kind of like the way they're operating it, in that they're just like, right, we're going aggressive, all in. Like even like realistically, I think if this was any other team that wasn't run by that kind of Nui, maybe like Red Bull-esque kind of maximum, like we're just going to push on this, I think any other team would be like, okay, fuck it guys, we need to open up the cooling, like let's forget about this aero, let's like scale back a bit, help Honda figure this out. Whereas Nui has gone all in on the exact same thing he did with the gearbox casing that he's talked about for the RB18, where he was like, he just completely gave the gearbox department an aneurysm, because he walked in and was like, okay, we want to make the packaging at the back for my philosophy as tight as possible.
Which car are you talking about?
The 2022 Red Bull, basically he walked into the gearbox department and said, hey, we've come up with this aero philosophy, and to make it work, you're going to make the gearbox as small as possible. And they were like, but if we do it this way, we're not going to be able to have like an oil sump in the gearbox. And they were like, he's like, yeah, great, figure it out. And he's like, they had huge issues and like even reliability concerns for 2022, which we kind of, it wasn't directly the gearbox, but we saw that play out with his like aggression on the 2022 car. And I think that's good. I think Honda will adapt better to that than maybe with a McLaren who didn't know what they wanted. I think Honda will struggle this season, and I don't think Aston Martin's going to win a championship this season. I think anyone who expected that kind of was wrong from the start. But I think this way of running it is better. Have a car that's unreliable, have a car that has issues, but push to the limits instead of like, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of issues, but it feels like a team that is going at 100% right now. Whereas I feel like before it was a team that wasn't maximizing anything and it was kind of just floundering everywhere. And I don't know, this is kind of where I expect a team like this to be, like breaking everything before it comes back. Whereas Aston Martin before was just like, yeah, we're building this and we're doing that. I don't know, it felt like McLaren before 2024, you know, where it was kind of like, oh, we're hoping this will fix it, or we're hoping this will fix it. This feels like a McLaren where everything's broken, but everyone kind of knows what they're doing at the same time. It's kind of controlled chaos is what I would call it right now. And it doesn't look like that from the outside, but that's what I feel like from everything I've heard. Like inside, it's like everything's broken, but everyone kind of knows what the end goal is on fixing it. So they're just like, they know the plan and everything's broken, but this will come together, you know? And that feels very Newey to me. that's kind of like every single team Newey's been to, you know?
Well, that's fine. But for me, the biggest concern here is, okay, when Honda, let me walk you through this one. So when Honda first came back with McLaren, what was the initial, why did they fail with McLaren?
Well, because McLaren blamed them for everything, I think was the main initial focus more than anything else.
So initially, when it came to McLaren, I think it was Ron Dennis's idea to have a size 0 car. It was going to be an aggressive packing and everything was supposed to work around that. And every year when the cycle happened, Honda was given clear directions that this is how you're going to go ahead with your design and everything. And again, for Ron, why he used this approach was because he used the same approach in 1988 when ultimately they won with Honda, right? And so at that time, it could work because at that time the lead times were probably a bit shorter because things were less complex. Now things were far more complex, and ultimately Honda could never rise to the same challenge that was consistently put on them by their by a team like McLaren, right? So once this was going on, that's where they continue to flounder. When they moved to Red Bull, what was the first thing that Honda was told? They were told, build the best possible power unit, we'll build the car around it.
Yep.
What Aston Martin has done is, and I don't know who has given the direction or whatever instructions have been given.
It's Newey.
Maybe it's Newey. Again, Newey joined much later, right? He joined in March.
Sure, but sorry to interject, just the reason I'm saying it's Newey is essentially Newey has told the story, and I've heard it from a few people around Aston as well, that basically said what happened was they had kind of an idea running, not like they had a very basic version in the wind tunnel because they were kind of holding off for final say and they didn't want to use too much of their aero time. But Newey came in, basically sat down, said, I have this concept, I have this philosophy. Obviously, it's not a final design and I want you all to run down like various parts of it, but this is the direction I want us to go in. This is the 2026 regulation that I think will be best. And everyone essentially went, yep, that sounds great. Like everyone kind of got on board with the idea. It all made sense to them. So they ran down that line. So obviously Newey didn't do every part, and I'm not saying that.
So essentially, I know people, it's coming from him, right?
He came in with an idea that, which...
No, I mean, ultimately, he's the one who has put the
he's the one who wants
Honda
the packaging
case, right?
demand. Yes.
Yeah.
But, so, and one last thing I will say just before I go back to that. The same demands were kind of put on Honda for 2021 as well, to really tightly package the Red Bull car. So I don't think it's that Honda can't do that, you know?
No, it's not that Honda can't do that. So again, where I'm coming from is it's just the interviews I've heard from Horner, from Marco, and even the race did an entire article on this. It will be there available. It's from Mark Hughes, where they specifically talked about why it failed with McLaren, why it worked with Red Bull. Now, my concern is what Aston Martin has done right now is they've gone in the same direction that McLaren went in. And for me, the biggest problem here is the car itself is not a differentiating factor. The aerodynamics and everything, they're not the differentiating factors. The factor is the power unit. And if you're going to hinder the power unit, I am not sure that's the best way to go about things. The concern is, look, starting 4 seconds behind, it won't be 4 seconds behind. They'll be roughly a couple of seconds behind. And let's assume that's the case. If they're starting with that kind of a deficit, let's say it's a second per lap through your power unit and it's a second per lap through the chassis. Making that gap up, it's not a joke in any which way, right? It's essentially you're not going to make jumps worth a second or so easily within a season. Formula One doesn't work that way, and the rules are very prescriptive in that sense as well. So once you add all that up, you have to question if it is the right approach. Again, I'm not Adrian Newey. I've not really won a fuck ton of championships.
Really?
But
I thought you were.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I am in another life. But it's just... if Aston Martin starts the first race of the season 2 to 3 seconds behind, bringing it back from that point to the point where it is fighting at the front, it's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be this far behind anyways.
Yeah.
That's my concern. They shouldn't be here. They should be roughly, even if it's true to... Again, Aston Martin is not a team that was set in stone and had rigorous processes in place or decades of inertia that had to be overcome. That was the case with Williams. That wasn't the case with Aston Martin. This is a team that is still growing, right?
Yeah.
It's not been molded and people are not set in their ways. The culture is still very nascent. So if you have that thing, you don't really have to necessarily break everything. You just have to mold things in a certain direction. And that's where my worry comes in.
I disagree on that, because I think the thing is, when you push anything to the upper
Thank God we
extremes,
disagree on something, by the way.
I know,
I love that.
I think when you, especially in Formula One, like when you start pushing things to the upper limits, you're going to start seeing the breaking of everything, right? And with Williams, for example, you see that they've found this whole new set of problems coming into 2026, right? And like, I think that happens with most teams. It's like they push and they're like, oh, this is our last run now, we're going to be winning. And then they find that actually when they push to these extremes, you've got all these problems, right? Aston Martin, basically, the logic was, we'll just pump a ton of money in, we'll build these world-class facilities, and we'll get some good people, and then it'll all be fine, right? And it seems like they kept like slowly pushing forward, finding some issues, taking months, coming back, and like finding more problems then. Now it seems like it's just like, okay, Newey's way of running things is just, no, we're going to push everything to the extreme at once. And we're going to find all those issues at once. And I think it was inevitable that this was going to be a disaster. Like, this is the first time they've built their own gearbox casing and gearbox, full stop. Yeah. It's a brand new works partnership with an engine manufacturer that had to completely retool 18 months after everyone else had already started, essentially. You know, it's a brand new technical team run by Newey and Cardile, essentially. So, like, that's all new people working together. And then on top of that, you've got, like, you know, the Strolls probably not knowing what the fuck is going on. And they've got one useless driver, which doesn't help either. So, like, you're trying to build all of this at once. I think it was going to be a nightmare. And my point earlier was just like, I prefer this approach than just like, okay, we're going to try and build things slowly and we'll ramp up over 3 years. This is kind of just let's just break everything at once and let's figure out all these issues and merge this together. Because all the ingredients with that team are there. The biggest issue is we need to stress this, test this all, and see what falls apart. And I think that's probably a good thing for Honda as well, because Honda with McLaren, they had a load of issues. And there is a concern I have about Aston Martin that's very similar to McLaren, which is like McLaren and Honda had a lot of issues. And McLaren essentially just thought, oh, well, it's all Honda, and essentially just blamed them for everything. And then when Honda left, they got their new Renault engine and were like, oh, actually, a lot of it's us, right? And Honda, when they went to Red Bull, were given the, like, we're going to have to fix this. And Red Bull were like, yes, we need to be aggressive, but we understand that, like, we have to do our part as well and that we have to integrate. And I think that's kind of happening again.
That, Marco said, right, in 2020.
Yeah.
In 2020, when the Mercedes was launched and the whole DAS thing happened. Yeah. Marco simply said that the power unit is fine. It's us who are lacking. And then in 2021, they finally got their act together.
Exactly. And that, like, right? I think Newey is the type of guy that will push on every angle and will be like, look, we have to fix our part, but like, you have to fucking do your job as well, you know? And I think that is that it's good to have that kind of leader in place who will push everything to those extremes. The only thing that's concerning me about Aston is when Newey and a few of the technical heads were asked, like, what's the issue at the moment? Their response was pretty blatant. It's like, it's everything. Like, we've got aerodynamic issues, we've got we've got reliability issues, we've got engine issues. Like the whole Aston Martin Honda, everything is broken at the moment. It's everything, essentially, was not in those exact words, but that was their point. Whereas Lance Stroll was asked, and it seemed like this was the Stroll party line of like, well, it's mostly the engine, essentially. Like, you know, like this is kind of... Was it not? Who said it was the engine
Lance
mostly?
said that everything is wrong, which includes the engine and the car as well. So it's a bit of a breaking the third wall kind of thing. So I think I told you as well in the group. So once Lance said that, the panic broke out in the Aston Martin camp, because it is essentially putting the blame on the car,
the engine
part of things.
the car.
And
yeah.
And once that was done, the Spanish reporters, they were summoned, they were asked, and they were told that, okay, this is the party line we're going to stick with. There's no issue with the car. The only issue is with the power unit.
Yeah. Because that seems like it's... So basically, it's the Aston Martin PR division basically is coming out with that. Because like literally, even Newey in interviews has said like there's a ton of things wrong. You know, like I've heard like engineers from inside Aston being like, it's everything. Like, you know, whereas... Yeah, if the PR machine is being like, oh, well, it's Honda's fault, I just hope that's just PR and not... It doesn't get into the technical team. Because the moment the technical team doesn't admit fault, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Because let me put it this way. I think we all knew that Honda was on the back foot when it came to the timeline, right? They started late.
Yep.
At that point, as ultimately, look, it's a partnership, right? It's Aston Martin and Honda. They're collaborating and they're doing things together. At that point, you know your power unit supplier is already struggling. Is that not a point where you... Again, this is a bit of stuff that I got to know. Is that not the point where you start to collaborate with your power unit supplier instead of starting dictating things to him? Right. So let me just put it this way. Let me share the complete thing. So what I got to know was that Andy Cowell initially in 2024, once he ultimately got to know the status of where Honda was, his initial thing was in 2026, let's accommodate Honda. Let them ultimately reach a point where the power unit is at least reliable, it can run, and then development comes. Because they were quite clear that as early as early 2025, they knew that the power unit was not going to be up to the mark. They knew that. They were behind schedule already.
Yeah.
So once that became apparent, Andy Cowell's approach was, okay, let's not make things worse. Let's reach a point where, again, everyone knows this is a power unit dependent regulations, right? If your power unit works like a charm, everything else falls in place. His approach was, let's go slightly conservative. Let's build a car that accommodates this power unit, and then ultimately we can push through. Newey came in and his approach was, let's be more aggressive, and then at that point a lot of new directions were brought in. Once that happened, we are kind of looking at the final result. That's where
I think the conservative measure
is where they've put themselves right now. From this is too big a hole to dig themselves out of, right? They are not pragmatically, if this car is 2 seconds slower in Australia, do you think the same car is even a contender by the start of 2027?
Yes.
I don't.
I'll tell you why though, because I think if you go conservative the way that like Andy Kell wanted with these regulations,
not that necessarily. Not that. I'm saying if this car, the current package that is there right now, at the start of the Australian Grand Prix, the first qualifying is there, and the car is 2 seconds off. Look, if Aston Martin, if Alonso is 1 second off pole in Australia, I think they have nailed everything. I'll be the first to say, because if they are a second off from that point, they can make up. I won't be surprised if they're able to make up. But if they're 2 seconds off, I think that's a too big a gap. That's my worry.
I disagree, just because this is a team that has everything in its control now, is my point. So like, unlike before, there's no pieces that they can't change. And I think this aggressive approach is better. Like, the thing is, I just think like that approach of like, you know, let's kind of go any way conservative. Just, I think like the Red Bull Newey way of doing things, and like Red Bull in general and Horner in general, for example, before, and like that ethos, I think was always like, no, we push performance first. I'd rather the engine explode. We get the performance, then we figure out how to stop it exploding. And I think that's the approach Inui's going to have. And to be honest as well, like I think the one thing I will say about Honda, and like this isn't just the engine part of Honda, this is just Honda as a whole. And in many ways as well, like even reading Phil Knight's thing about the Nike industry, like just Japan as a whole, like the culture there is like, they are incredible at solving problems because they don't like get into these personal problems. It's just like, this is an engineering efficiency thing. And it's like, I think by pushing for that ultimate level of performance, that engine starts exploding every race. I think that's probably better than them having an engine that runs for every race, but is nowhere near the pace, because I think Honda will figure out much quicker than maybe some other manufacturers, Ferrari, how to fix those issues. And I think it's probably best that they're not under any illusions of like, look guys, this is what I need from an aero point of view. I need you to get your engine to work there. And I would rather us blow up for a whole year than have any illusions that that's not where we want to get to. And I think working under those stresses is probably better than what Aston has been doing, you know? And also, like, if they go that conservative way, I think it takes even longer. This is just my opinion. Like, I think it takes even longer. And I think Lawrence Stroll is not going to wait 3 years to see some performance on track. You know what I mean? So, like, I think for all of them, doing it in this extreme way is better. But I guess we'll see. I guess we won't know until the end of this season. Like, the reality is, where are they by Abu Dhabi? Like, if in Abu Dhabi you're starting to see a team that could be pushing for podiums, it's like, all right, this is good. Like, you know, look where they started the season, look where they ended.
If they are pushing for podiums by the end of the season,
incredible.
Again, I don't know where they are. Again, I'll reserve my judgment until the third preseason test, because there's still scope for improvement.
But the first, for all we know, this is actually an epic team and engine, and there's so much. The setup is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, look at how Ferrari.
It's indeed.
It's not. I know, but I mean, like, if we look at Ferrari's handling for the first 4 days, if you include Barcelona, to day 5, night and day. You know what I mean? So like things can come together. I guess we can talk about Ferrari in a minute if we want.
Yeah.
Instead of
just to round it up, the stuff that you said about if the engine blows every weekend and everything, it gave me flashbacks of McLaren Honda. I'll tell you something.
I guess the difference is I think this is a team that can fix that. I think this is a team that's in a better position to run at those extremes than McLaren Honda. Like that is my opinion.
Maybe.
But again, we'll see.
Again, as I said, initial impressions, I'm slightly skeptical. But again, let's see what happens, right? Because
one thing I will say is just sorry.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. No, go for it.
I was just going to say, like, one thing I will say is this. I just hope they give Newey the rope on this, which I think they have by making him team principal.
Will.
Because
they don't have an option, right? What else? Again, this Aston Martin outfit, ultimately it will succeed. The question is, how far back how are they handling Honda? And I think this is something that you have to look at history, right? And the two approaches are right in front of them. There was a McLaren's approach of dictatorial way where they dictated how things are going to be with Honda. And then there was Red Bull, which basically said, go ahead, throw as much money as you want, give us as good a power unit as you can, we'll build a car around it and make it work. And now these two different approaches, only one of them ultimately yielded championships. And are we... First of all, I hate the fact that the PR that is coming out is so anti-Honda, which is so ridiculous.
I don't like that.
Yeah, which is utterly ridiculous. And even if we put that to one side, I think it has to be a collaborative effort, and I am not entire. And again, the start has not been good. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next? Ferrari?
I think we should talk about Ferrari next, because Ferrari has been the most I think Ferrari and maybe Red Bull have been the two like most interesting of this test for me so far.
Wait a minute. Are we first talking about how Ferrari performed on track, or how Ferrari did the most Ferrari thing with Fred Vasseur?
What did they do with Fred Vasseur? What have I missed?
Fred Vasseur, it just happened, I think, an hour back. So Fred Vasseur revealed that Ferrari is not going to protest the Mercedes compression ratio thing, which essentially means there's going to be no change.
That's not what I've heard. I've heard they're not going to protest because they're not going to need to. It's the rules going to be changed
How?
with a technical directive next week.
The technical directive can only be introduced if there's a super majority, which means
Yeah.
6 versus 1.
But that's not a
if,
protest. It's a vote.
Oh, okay. This is weird.
That's what I'm hearing is
Because
this is
John
very,
Noble
this
wrote
is
that.
this is technical knowledge is what I heard, or this is technicalities is what I heard. Like, no, we're not going to protest because we're not going to need to. There's going to be a vote, and we're just going to vote against it.
Look, if
No,
that's
maybe
the
I'm
case,
wrong.
then
That was what I heard
if that's
a few
the case,
hours
then
ago.
once
So
again, if that's the case, then it's again another positive for Ferrari. Well, they're doing right things in that case. Because what I read the report from John Noble only, and he said that essentially it means that Mercedes might be off the hook. But maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
maybe
We'll
I
have
mean,
to probably
look,
wait and see.
John Noble knows more than me, so like maybe I'm wrong on this, but like what I was hearing was like they're not going to protest because they don't need to. Essentially, like
Look,
there's going to be a
protest
vote next week.
Protest is essentially going to be in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, exactly. So a protest would be
but
you would
the
lodge
whole
it
thing
in
would be
Melbourne.
done already before by 1st
exactly.
March. So
Which is why I
okay.
heard like this was technical wording of like, no, we're not going to protest. But like the unspoken is because we don't need to. Like
We won't need to.
it's
Okay.
done, you know? Like
Yeah. Cool.
So-
Then let's talk about Ferrari in that case.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway from the whole
So-
way, the entire approach that they've had?
I heard a lot of what would the Italian word be for this? Bullshit about Ferrari coming into this season, right? And up until yesterday, I was starting to think like, I'm not sure how much of this bullshit is right. But now I'm starting to think Ferrari actually might be pulling like a blinder here. Like they might actually come out way stronger than I would have expected and actually do what I would call maybe a decent job in Formula One for Ferrari. There's just been so much going on that makes me think maybe they, like all of these random rumors we were hearing were true. So to elaborate on that, one of them was there was a rumor over the off season that Ferrari had figured out a way to do essentially passive active suspension, right? Using, I'm going to have to look up the word here real quick because there's a type of carbon. No, there's a type of carbon fiber you can use. I have it written down here somewhere in a note for a video I'm making. Anisotropic carbon fiber, right, is the name. Now, essentially what this would do is the rigidity of the carbon fiber, it's a material, the rigidity of the carbon fiber will change depending on the direction of the load, right? So if you had a load coming down on it, so if you had the car like basically under direct pressure downforce, as in going in a straight line, it will be basically more rigid than it would if you were going through a corner. So if the load moves laterally, it'll be less rigid, right? So this is like a passive active suspension. The problem with this is getting the setup to work for that would be really difficult and make the handling really tricky, right? Over the first few days of testing, we saw a car that was good, but incredibly difficult for the cars, the drivers to handle. And kind of all of a sudden then they changed the setup a little bit and boom, like in the last 2 days of testing, it looked great. It was also taking the corners a bit different from everyone else. It was taking curbs a little bit different from everyone else. I reckon there's some truth maybe in the fact that they've got a suspension setup that has something like that in it compared to everyone else, right? If maybe there's not, maybe there is. The point is like, if they do, that's something that no other team apparently has, right? On top of that, there was a vote that essentially Ferrari allegedly turned down the start processes because of the turbo lag and turbo spooling, where Ferrari's like, no, we don't need that. We're fine, and we're blocking this because we don't need it. I don't think they vetoed. I think they just managed to vote against
They vetoed.
it. But did they actually veto? Is that the first time Ferrari's ever used a veto then?
That we know of.
That we know of. Yeah, maybe behind the scenes, because this wasn't really public. It was, I think John Noble reported it.
Yeah, just yesterday.
Because he's a legend. Which is why I said he knows more about. I think he knows more about F1 than anyone, to be honest. And then there's the other rumor that Ferrari have also been using the same engines as the start of Barcelona, and no one else has done that.
That's not a rumor. That's official.
Is that true?
It was.
Okay. Okay. So basically, Ferrari has been topping the times They potentially have the most reliable engine. They're the only ones who are got the start better than everybody else, apparently.
You saw the start?
And apparently they have some passive active suspension. Have Ferrari...
You can't. I was about to actually say that. I'm not entirely sure you can have an active suspension. You can have an active
it's not
aero.
active. It's passively active. What I mean by that is it changes its
You're not
camber
controlling
based on...
it, essentially.
Yes. So it's basically just depending on the load. And because of the way it works, it's not moving either. Like you're not actually doing anything that could be seen as active. It's just similar to the compression ratio. It's some sort of, a material science.
Dynamically it works, basically.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
It could be, right? For me, the biggest highlight again has to be the power unit because it's ridiculously reliable, right? It's going to become... By the way, you saw the start?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
All the cars did.
Yeah.
I mean, if you call it a start,
if we get that start in Melbourne, it's going to be interesting.
Interesting is not the word I'd use for that. Disaster is probably the
I will be saying
word.
once again, thank you, Volkswagen, for ruining our sport. Yeah.
And it's not their fault. I won't.
It is their
I
fault.
won't put it on them. It's entirely on
It's FOM and Volkswagen. I'm blaming both of them.
Liberty.
Yes, and Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Because when things go wrong in the world, always blame the Germans. You have to blame the Germans.
Yeah. The mind wandered into an entirely different direction with that one.
999.
Okay. So look, the car might be good, right? By the way, you saw the livery. Your reaction
The Ferrari livery?
on track?
I like it. I just think it's ruined by
like
the
it?
HP logo. It's such a
dog shit.
nice. No,
dog
it's
shit.
actually, if it didn't have the blue, it would actually be a decent livery. It's
It
kind of
didn't
very
have the
retro.
blue. It didn't have the white. It didn't have the black.
The white, I kind of don't mind. It reminds me of like
the white of the HP one. The entire nonsense.
well,
if
that,
it doesn't-
that white around the back where it kind of
essentially,
circles around.
yeah.
I like it. I think it looks good. It's just the HP logo ruins it because it
You've
makes
seen
it
the
look
front
like the
on
white
view, by the
is.
way.
Yeah,
But
it's
you've
not
seen the
great.
front on view.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. Why is it so black? Why is it not red? Ferraris are supposed to be red. I've been following the sport for more than 2 decades now. This is the least red Ferrari I've seen. The front view.
I'm not gonna lie, man. You sound a bit racist. I'm just saying. Just
Why? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But again, this is the least red Ferrari. I'm not saying it's least white Ferrari. So it's the least red Ferrari I've seen. Because
also,
the entire...
you did just complain about it having too much white, while the white guy didn't. So I apologize for my blatant racism.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, moving back to it, the livery is dog shit in my view. It should be red. It should not be this whatever it is right now. Secondly, moving to the car, I think the car looks good on track. I'd still say the reliability would be great. The power numbers we don't really know. We have no clue on whatever we've heard. The top 4 teams are the top 4 teams again. There's no variance on that front.
Yeah.
You know what the biggest worry for me is when it comes to Ferrari?
Mm-hmm.
They do a repeat of 2022. That's my biggest worry.
They start really well and then...
They
So
start
what
really
you're saying
well,
is
they
a
are
repeat
not the
of
best.
2017, 2018, 2012,
No, not necessarily
2022,
that. Yeah, for me the worry is
2024.
you can go for any year. My worry is that when they if they start the season
1998.
pretty much every year.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
If they start the season decently where they don't have the best car, they are behind. And at that point John Elkann brings himself back to the paddock and then you see heads starting to roll. And I think what Ferrari has shown right now is they've shown they have brilliant foundations. The car is ridiculously reliable and that helps a lot. Even if they are not the best car or the best package come Melbourne, I just hope the whole thing of that they have to win this year or everyone is going to perish. I hope that doesn't really rear its ugly head. If the car is good enough, they're fighting for the championship or just fighting for random wins. I think they just let the whole structure stay and let Fred Vasseur continue to develop from here. Because if they don't, if they do the nonsense they did in 2022, where they just change Binotto, replace him with Vasseur, I think they're going to fall back, and again, it's the entire regulations that's going to go into the gutter. I really hope they don't do that, which means they will. So
yeah. I mean, if there's a chance the Ferrari can screw everything, Ferrari will screw everything. It's Murphy's. It's Elkin's law. Yeah. However bad Ferrari can be, Ferrari will be.
Yeah.
Elkin's law. That's
They'll find a way.
You've heard it here first. Yeah.
The thing is, they'll find here first.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about Red Bull a bit, right? And how awesome Christian Horner is. So,
yeah. Incredible.
Go for it. What's your take on Red Bull in general?
Not surprising. Called it. No, look, I think this was just like, at the end of the day, when you look at how Red Bull operated under Christian Horner, they were a team that just pushed everything to the max. And I think when it comes to the engine, for example, and setting that whole thing up, Christian Horner was under no illusions after watching Renault and Honda at how difficult it would be. And I think he built up the right people, put the right people in place, and built the right culture there for them to succeed, which it looks like so far they have. It's not a perfect engine. I've heard some issues and so on, but for a first engine, it looks pretty damn good. They also seemingly have gone down crazy routes of like pushing, how they're going to manage that engine, simulations on track, and like how Max is going to drive the engine, basically building a car around Max once again. All of these things though were set up like long before the board decided to oust Christian Horner, like it was mid 2025. So this is Christian Horner once again showing, shouldn't have fired him. I think, look, Red Bull, I kind of called this early on. I think Red Bull was always going to start with a very strong car. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the board fuck this up over 26 and 27. That's what I'm excited to see. The only thing I'm hugely excited about, to be honest, and I guess I shouldn't be because Pierre Vacher and Balbo they run a very good ship as well. I'm surprised at just how good it seems to be. I also wonder how much of this is Mercedes trying to keep their compression trick by let's just turn everything down, make us look like we're struggling a little bit, a la 2014. So I don't know. At the moment, they genuinely do look amazing though. So let's see. But again, this is still testing. All the regular caveats apply, but they look pretty good so far. The only thing that's made me worried about Red Bull is Max complaining. That's the only thing that's made me go, is there more to this than...
No, but yeah, I don't think there's... I think there's bad news for Hadjar because these cars are ridiculously front sensitive, and that's essentially playing into Max's hands. The worry is... okay, look, full disclosure, I did not expect Red Bull to be this good. If you remember, I put Red Bull as 6th or 7th. I predicted them to finish 6th or 7th in the constructors. I don't think that's going to happen now. They seem fine.
I put P4, I believe.
Just
so we can see, because I think I said they'll start really good and fall off over the season.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting though. I'll probably look like a moron by the end when they win the championship. But anyway.
Look, even if they win the championship, constructors is still probably going to be up for grabs.
Oh, actually, yeah, P4 constructors, good, sorted, done.
Yeah. Look, even if they. Again, from my perspective, if Red Bull comes to the first race of the season in Australia, and even if it is 4th fastest, I think that's a win for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's how everyone should try to put things into perspective here, because this is the first ever power unit, and they are up against the might of Ferrari and Mercedes. And forget about Honda and Audi and everyone who else is actually fucked up.
This is their first power unit, and
ever.
If they beat, let's put it this way, can we make this even simpler? If they beat in terms of power unit, not in terms of the car, just in terms of power unit, if they beat Audi and Honda, then Ferrari need to just give their team to Horner. That's what I think. Yeah. Because that's, I agree. Like you're starting from scratch, so were Audi and Honda. And Audi and Honda have a history of building engines. Red Bull doesn't. So, and if anyone says, oh, but Ford are involved. No, they're not. Like, shut up. They're not.
They just they just sent a few.
They
checks.
sent over some
That's all.
documents and some people and said, "Hey, you should try this." That's the extent of
And
the
they were
involvement.
probably they were ignored.
And to be honest,
it's-
the less that Ford were involved, the better. And anyone who says, "Well, Ford made amazing engines in the past," no, they didn't. Cosworth did. Shut up. You're wrong.
That's Ford, essentially.
Ford bought Cosworth, who were already building engines. So Cosworth.
I mean, sure. Anyways, coming back to this, I think even if they're fourth, it's a big achievement.
Agreed. Yeah.
Whatever I've heard, they're better than fourth, and they're quietly confident. But they are, again, everyone is worried about the Mercedes power unit itself, because and they are not necessarily worried about Mercedes works team as such. Now they're starting to be worried about McLaren, because McLaren is racking up the mileage like anything, and they are starting to understand the car. And as much they've understood the car, they are closing the gap on pretty much Mercedes. We saw yesterday on the long run that he did comparative to George. McLaren looked a much better car. And the reality of the entire situation is how Red Bull goes from here is something similar to, again, it's similar to what you said. The worries are somewhat same, because if they reach a scenario where, again, it's a bit of a dilemma for Max as well. If Red Bull starts the season fourth fastest and they have a strong foundation, and then there is Mercedes on the other side, which is, let's assume they're winning, then Max has a call to make. They have a competitive team, competitive power unit. The biggest worry for him would have always been the power unit. If that is sorted, and then there's the option of Mercedes, will he make the switch or will he stick?
Yeah.
Right. And if he moves, I think then problems begin for Red Bull, because then they have to find a replacement and the entire problem. And then things start to unravel.
This is my biggest worry, because this is why I think they'll have a downfall, is because when you've got a board run team, right? If this was any other situation, if this was still run by, let's say if this was still run by Horner, right?
Yeah.
The attitude would be, right, let's say we show up on track. It's the first time we've ever built an engine. Nui's gone. So in reality, it's the first time we've ever really built like a full-on new regulation set with our team without the input of Nui being there, like steering the situation. And they show up with, let's say, the third fastest car overall, and it's close to Mercedes and McLaren, right? Let's say that's the situation. If Horner's running that team, they're like, holy shit, guys, we did an amazing job. Okay, let's reassess now what the next step is. Let's push. Maybe we don't win this year, but we get there for 2027. All right, we're losing Verstappen because of that, but let's find a better driver. Let's just rebuild. And we're close enough. We are closer now than we were in 2014 to getting back to the front, right? So he's going to focus on building it. The difference is if the board is there, they're going to go, we're third fastest and we're going to lose Verstappen. Shit, we need to fire Vache. We need to get someone else in. You know what I mean? It becomes chaos instead of, oh, okay, this is somewhere we can win from. You know, that's the difference in opinion.
Yeah, but
that's what concerns me.
Even if, let's assume Max leaves, right? If there was Horner in place, would a Charles Leclerc not move to Red Bull? Or a George not move to Red Bull? They would in a heartbeat. Yeah, because the name is there, right? Now with Lauren Mackey's there, do you think he'll have the same pull as a Horner did? He won't. And that's where the problem comes in. The attractiveness of the Red Bull overall operation, it depends on the person leading it. And if you don't have a proven entity in Horner, and if Max leaves, I think a lot of Red Bull's short-term to long-term success depends on Max staying. And if that is not happening, I think things could get a bit tricky. But we'll see what happens, because at least for now, I think they are the standout team. Not in terms of, I'm not saying they're the fastest. I think for me, this is a team that has exceeded all expectations. There's no doubt about it. The car is brilliant, which is, again, shout out to Pierre Vache and Enrique Balbo. At the same time, the power unit is not at, I won't say it is the best one, but I think it is competitive. It is probably the best benchmark they could have actually put together. So
for a first engine, it's incredible, you know.
Exactly.
Unless it turns out that actually Honda was the only one running 100% sustainable fuel and they all start exploding next week, in which case we'll be like, oh, right.
By the way, that's also another.
Last week's podcast was a problem.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a strange position, right? Because all four teams they've looked good at different times, and again they are all hiding something that's also there. It's so hard to picture which one is ahead. It's just that we just know that these top four teams are at the front.
Yeah.
And again, it's good and depressing at the same time, like I said last time around, because we don't really have I would have wanted a different team to actually just drop a bomb in the top four, right? Just make a splash. And even Williams fucked up. I mean, yeah. So, by the way, where do you think Mercedes stands after this test?
I really genuinely think it comes down to how this compression ratio thing flips out. Because look, I think they'll bounce back from that relatively quickly. Like, I don't think they're dead because of that either. But I do think like that is going to have some serious knock-on effects with performance because like when you think about it, right? If say that comes down next week as they can keep it, then I think Mercedes is in a very, very good position because I think they do have the strongest power unit in terms of performance. Maybe Ferrari's beat them on reliability at this stage, but I doubt it. But I think they have the strongest on performance. If this goes against them, it's really unlikely that they're going to be able to completely retool and retest that engine before March 1st. Now they may have a backup and so on, but they're going to have to change but they're going to have to change engine rods already. And sure, but they're still going to have to change engine rods and so on. So, you've done that without testing.
No such.
I don't know, man.
They are next to the thing is, this was an add-on feature kind of thing, and whatever I've got to know, Mercedes are fine either way. As in, they still think the power unit is fine.
I still think they're going to have some issues.
Toto was very cavalier in the interview.
Maybe. But that could also be trying to play as everything's fine. So why are you pushing
not
against
necessarily
it?
from his. I'm not going by the horse's mouth, but whatever I've got to know, they are. It was an added feature and it helped for sure, but it's not a make or break thing. They didn't really put all their eggs in that basket. So that's what I'm saying essentially.
If that's the case, great. But if not, then the worst case scenario could be around 40 horsepower loss. And the reason I say that is
25,
because
right?
Well, 15, the reason I say,
right? I'm sorry.
No, the reason I'm saying that is if it is a situation where they do, let's say worst case scenario, right? They have to change. This is an engineer I was talking to about this. And he's like, it's unlikely that this will happen, but he's like, let me just give you the worst case scenario. If it's a situation where they don't need to change the regulations, they just need to change the test, and all the other teams basically say, that's fine, we'll go with that, right? And Mercedes can't, they are in a situation where they have to change the pistons or the cylinders in some way, right? And they have to do that. He's like, it's very unlikely that they'll be able to do that in a reliable way between now and March 1st, which means they would have to rehomologate after the 6 races, basically. They would have to go through that process. He's like, if they have to run it with the current cylinder heads and so on, he's like, the only way to run that engine and meet compression will be to essentially detune that engine, meaning at cold temperatures it would have to run at 14-1 and then up to 16-1 at hot temperatures from his math that he did, right? Now he's like, again, I don't know the inner workings of the engine, so he's like, I could be wrong there, but he's like going through some kind of his understanding of how it would work on the inside. He's like, you'd have to detune it. Now he said you could work around that, and these guys are super clever, but he's like, that would be the general way you would do it. So you'd have to run it 2-16-1 by starting lower. And he's like, that could give you up to 40 horsepower loss. Again, from his understanding, he was like, that was the worst case situation.
Yeah.
Absolute worst case. You'd essentially have to detune the engine so it was running it's running at even less compression when it's cold.
Don't work on those principles, right? I don't know. Maybe the person is right. Whatever my mechanical
let me try and find
degree
where
tells you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
again,
I'm just trying to let me try and find the exact thing he says, because maybe I'm explaining it wrong. But let me see. I have it here somewhere. Where is it? Okay, here we go. So, I have so many windows open trying to find it. Okay. To comply with the hot test, these are some notes I made from him. They would have to mechanically lower their compression ratio to hit 16-1 while hot. This means when the engine is cold, it would drop to roughly 14-1, making it incredibly inefficient and potentially difficult to start. And then he said they would effectively be running a detuned engine that could lose up to 40 horsepower and potentially more due to poor combustion efficiency. Now, again, after that conversation as well, he did say, I will put into point that like these are F1 teams, so they may have much cleverer ways to do it. But he's like, just from like building race engines in general, like that's his background. He's like, that's how we would go about it. And he's like, it's an incredibly inefficient way to do it because you'd want to basically rebuild the cylinders and the way they work to be kind of on par. But he's like, if you had to work with the current cylinders, that's the way you would just do it. He's like, essentially, that's the way you would do it if you had 2 weeks notice and no other option. So maybe they have a backup plan, but yeah.
Yeah, because again, the reason why
I ran that through AI as well, by the way, and AI said he was right, but then AI just agrees with everything, so AI might be wrong. So
yeah,
AI is always like, perfect,
so,
that's a great idea. We should.
Yeah. So the reason why I said they might not need much changes because it was automotive and sport. So they specifically reported this thing that the solution that Mercedes had put together, it's not got much to do with material science. It's got to do with a special element that they've added right at the top of the piston. Yeah. What that does is it essentially opens up and that leads to an added compression. That's just the you can say ingenuity that they've put together. So if Mercedes is forced to go back and comply with it, they'll simply remove that setup. That's all they need to do.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, and the reason why I'm saying the reason why why Mercedes is not really trying to protest too much is they don't really have too many. They aren't really worried. They think that they still have a decent enough power unit and they'll be fine. That's what I got to know.
I still would be concerned.
Otherwise they would have. Otherwise, look, they would have easily protested. The 4 teams, they'll be off.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Because what it essentially means here is they are not going to. If your numbers are correct, right? 40 horsepower. That's essentially
huge.
Done. Your season is over, right?
Yeah.
Your season is over, and if it reaches that point, then Mercedes would not be taking part in it.
Mm-hmm.
Toto would not be this okay with the whole thing, especially after gloating as much as he's done the last year about how the power unit is going to be good. If it ends up being handicapped in such a manner, he would be done. It's essentially... Yeah, go for it.
Well, I mean, he was talking about how amazing everything was up until all of a sudden Red Bull now is the... So maybe he's setting expectations for that.
If you've noticed, other than the Mercedes powered cars, there's... Yeah, even Leclerc also said that the Red Bull car looks good.
Yeah.
But essentially the all hype has come from the Mercedes powered teams where they've literally said that Red Bull is great. So,
yeah, that's my point. Maybe they are like, oh shit, like this could ruin us. Let's everyone pile on Red Bull instead. Yeah, we're terrible.
Just what's the distraction thing, right?
I think like even if like let's say the engine guy I spoke to is wrong, right? Which he could very well be. He noted himself.
No, not necessarily. He's wrong, right?
No, but he noted himself. He's not an F1 engineer. The solutions
could be different, isn't it?
Yeah, and he noted himself. He's not an F1 engine engineer. He builds high performance engines for racing cars, but not in F1, like for GT and various other sports. So like he's like, they built these engines like in a very different way than we would in like a lot. F1's the pinnacle, so it's to be fair. But what I was saying to him, I was like, the concern I would have as well though is just like even if that's not the case, let's say we get to like 2 weeks out, right? Even if like say what you were saying from Auto, Motor and Sport is how they built it, you're still going to have to change the engine and run something you haven't tested. So there still could be a ton of things that you just don't expect
they're
to start
testing
happening
it right
from that. If they're not, I think that would be pure stupidity, right? They surely.
Do you think that is the reason why Mercedes has done as little mileage as it has in the last 3 days?
Maybe.
Have you noticed how reduced the car is run? They did 160 laps almost each day. Yeah, they did 500 laps in 3 days in Barcelona. Here, I don't think they've done anything close to that. They just pushed the power unit on the last day. They had I think the second day was fucked. The engine issues. The first day had some issues, but it wasn't the smoothest ride. And today, when they did the long runs, Russell, he wasn't competitive. And maybe they are trying something, right? Could be.
Maybe they're running it without it because like the thing is you would still need to... Like you still need to. It's not just a case of like, oh, we just fill that hole and it's fine. Like from a technical standpoint, you can say fine, but you still need to like, you still need to test that. Then
set up differently.
Yeah, like you need to tune it differently. The mappings are different. Like all of that stuff is gonna need to change. So like,
yeah,
you're still talking like 2 weeks out. You have to change all of these like assumptions that you had about the engine. So it's not going to be. But also the other thing we didn't touch on earlier is like, maybe this is their first week running the fully sustainable fuel. And like even something as small as that when
They aren't.
They're still not running it?
No one is running.
I think that terrifies me if no one's running it yet. Because like even if it's only a 10% difference, that's huge in
the
like
reason
F1
why they're
terms.
not, by the way, is it was reported by some Italian.
It's not the cost, is it?
No. Some Italian publication, it said that only Ferrari has been able to get their sustainable fuel approved. Every other team is yet to get it approved. Every other power manufacturer is yet to get it approved.
Melbourne's going to be a shit show, man. I'm worried because like I heard one of the teams was running the E10, like not even anything close to the sustainable
doesn't
fuel.
make any sense, right?
No, but this is my point. That's like, it's completely different. Completely different fuel. So, now I did hear it was Audi, and I don't know if I believe that, but yeah. And I heard it was Audi this week.
Is
not
supplied by whom? Castrol.
I think so.
Castrol or
think
BP?
so.
I think Castrol.
No, BP. I think it's BP. Let me check.
Check once.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Let's see. BP.
Yeah.
Yeah, BP, and then their lubricants and fluids are Castrol. That's where the confusion's coming from. So that makes sense.
So,
but yeah, I heard it was them, but I also heard that they were running something closer to the sustainable fuel in Barcelona. But they had a vibration issue, and this week they're running E10.
Yeah, the vibration issues was something that's been consistent with them. But Aston Martin also had the vibration issues as well.
So maybe that's fuel related. Like who knows?
What's going on? I mean, what are we doing here?
I just think it's really odd that you wouldn't run like a whole test of the sustainable fuel.
Well, if it's not approved, how can you run? That's the problem.
Sure, but like this happened in 2022. It was just much quieter, which was that
They ran the entire fuel and E10 only came much, much later.
Yeah, and Red Bull had some specific issues caused by the E10 fuel in the first couple of races. So like, this could be a real big issue that is just like...
Oh God! And what are we doing? And
are we going to show up with Ferrari winning every race, or like?
That would be nice. I take
for
that.
Leclerc. It'd be good. Yeah. Not for Hamilton, who can't seem to understand the car. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean he's fine. He's fine. He had a good day.
He's fine. Yeah. I'm kidding. Yeah. He's doing all right. I just think if Ferrari's winning, it's Leclerc winning, not Hamilton, in my opinion. But that's a different podcast.
No, the opinion is right.
Just because it's correct.
It's accurate.
Welcome to the blatantly biased Hamilton hating podcast.
Yeah, you do that. I don't hate Hamilton at all.
No, neither do I. It's just funny.
Yeah. By the way, I think we'll touch on it for a minute before we just jump onto the midfield. Lewis Hamilton does not have a race engineer right now. He will be having a temporary race engineer in Carlos Santi, who was Kimi Raikkonen's former race engineer. That race engineer will stick around for a few races. And then the original race engineer that was supposed to replace Riccardo Adami is going to join mid-season from McLaren to Ferrari and then take over. A driver who has struggled so much with race engineer in the last year is going to have two different race engineers, out of which one of them was a race engineer to Kimi Raikkonen, who never spoke anything. And then the second race engineer is going to be someone who's going to join mid-season from an efficiently run program like McLaren and join Ferrari, which is chaos unplugged. And then he'll take over.
I'm just glad that finally in the podcast we've said something negative about Ferrari. It's about time. Just,
It's a complete shit show. The one area where Lewis needed the right person with him, especially in regulations where you need your engineer to be your right hand man, right? And he will have two different race engineers,
It's a good thing though, because look, Lewis
have
is
something to
inevitably going to lose to Leclerc this season, so his fan base needs an excuse. So I'm just glad he's baking one in from the outset. So it's good.
I think, look, losing is fine. I think if he loses to Leclerc, that's not the problem.
It's the gap, right?
Smashed like last season, that's going to be an issue.
It's the gap, which is why he's practicing on a different rear end for a while.
Jesus. Okay.
Let's not get demonetized before we get monetized. What is next?
Next is the midfield. Your favorite team, Alpine.
Oh, Alpine. That was surprisingly good.
Right? The start.
It was. He was just practicing how to crash this season.
They're good. I think they might be fifth fastest. I might be wrong, but I think they might
be better
fastest.
than I expected, to be perfectly honest. Depends on whether the Mercedes engine turns out to be destroyed or not.
Again, just my view, I think it'll be fine. There's not going to be too much of an issue.
Yeah. But Alpine looks good.
Alpine, Haas, I think these are the two teams that are at, they've basically racked up the miles, and we don't really know the performance essentially where it falls, but they look good. At least they'll be the stable ones, right? Just there and thereabouts.
We hope, yeah.
Williams is struggling. That's a fat car, essentially. The verdict that is ultimately, I think it's in double digits how overweight the car is, and
that's what it sounds like, although they tried to play that down and say it wasn't, but it sounds like it is, to be honest, from everything I'm hearing. So I think
James Bowles also admitted, he said it will take around 6 to 7 races to get the car on a diet or something.
On the beneficial side of that, though, I will say, like, from just an aerodynamic standpoint, it does look like they did do some pretty interesting things with the car, and they've come up with some pretty interesting solutions. So if they can get the weight down, I actually think it could be a competitive car. My only concern is those interesting solutions have gone counter to a lot of the other teams in terms of like certain solutions, like suspension, for example. So I am a bit concerned that maybe there is kind of an element of like they've gone in a wrong direction if they're like the outliers. Because if the outlier in a situation like that is say a Red Bull, for example, you're like, oh, okay, this could be really good. When that outlier is a team that's coming from the back over the last few years, you do get a bit concerned that, no, I'm not sure if this is going to work. You know what I mean? So but then Mercedes was the outlier in the last regulations, and look how that worked out. So who knows? Who knows?
I'd still say I'll back them to finish 5th.
I can't remember where I can tell you right now. Where did I put them?
I think you put them 5th only, 5th or 6th.
Yeah, I'm just actually downloading my entire season guide, and I can tell you exactly. I have it in a nice clean PDF somewhere. If I can remember, if I remember the entire address of this off the... Oh, I did. I'm getting old, but my memory still works. That's good. I put them 6th. Yeah.
6th, yeah.
And the first line of it underneath says, I'm going to regret this one. But I said, the exact words were, I'm going to regret this one. They could be top 4. However, it's a big jump from the back to the front. And while I expect them to be competitive, I think beating the big boys and Aston, Jesus, will be hard, given the others have been doing what Williams is doing, but for longer. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Williams win a race or two by the end of 2026. Jesus. Right. Terrible.
They can win a race. I won't be surprised if they do.
Mainly because the other teams will all break down in most races. So.
Exactly. There's going to be, at least there's going to be a lot of unpredictability. I think that is going to be a feature of the season.
I'm sure F1 are delighted about that idea. Yeah.
I mean, look, we could see a scenario where 20 cars don't start and only Sainz and Albon actually get off the line.
Basically
Because
Hungary,
this
but
happened,
no one comes
by the
out of
way.
the pit lane.
You might see these cars just not even starting. It could happen. The biggest problem is it could happen, and I have no idea. Again, it is essentially down to the fact that the turbo and the electric power cannot be used.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the starts are going to be these dog shit. But Great job. Just they haven't even thought about
I feel
it. Right?
I feel like we've gone on a full roller coaster journey with these regulations where like literally like from I would say that near the end of last season up until Barcelona, it's been like maybe we were wrong. These regulations could be okay actually. And then all of a sudden it just kind of all went boom.
Maybe that's why they
crashing down.
didn't. Maybe that's why they didn't broadcast the entire day, right? Because it took me just 1 hour of watching that thing, and I was like, "Fuck, we're screwed."
Yeah,
Yep.
although that must because I can't think of any other reason because they had the broadcast cameras running all day. So the only extra expense they would have had to pay for was some commentators to talk for 6 more hours. Like,
Yeah.
I think F1 can afford that, so that must be the reason, you know.
It's cool. Let's talk about the regulations, and I think I kept this part for the end.
Yeah, go on, ruin my day. Tell me.
Yeah, two things, right? Because I think there have been three key takeaways. First is drivers, in general, drivers don't like these cars at all. At all. It's essentially what they've said is, okay, this is different. The best positive reply I've actually seen from all of them is, this is different. That's all. There's nothing which is essentially saying that, okay, they're great to drive. No, not even a single person has said that. Secondly, I think we are going to see worse wheel-to-wheel racing this season. Just my assessment. And it's based on 4 or 5 key factors. First is the tires are not going to be a factor in any which way. It seems the degradation or whatever, it's useless. Secondly, the areas where they used to overtake, it was on the straights. And essentially how they used to overtake with DRS and slipstream. Now on the straights, both the cars will essentially have the DRS open. So the car at front is not going to produce enough slipstream anyway. So the slipstream effect is already gone.
Yeah.
And what that essentially means is you only have your power boost, whatever you get to try to have the speed overlap to make the jump. Is it going to be enough? I think there are tracks where it is not going to be enough. And Anthony Davidson was also talking about that. Maybe that's not going to be as big a factor. And probably for me, the biggest issue here is if you look at these cars and the wings, the way they are actually directing the air, it's essentially we've returned to the ridiculous turbulent air which we had pre-2022.
I was going to say, like, if you look at these, like for example, even the front wings, those outer parts, they were supposed to direct basically the tire wake inboard into the car, and the teams have immediately figured out how to use them to turn the wheel wake outboard. And then the mouse holes at the back have basically come up with I'm not sure if it's high pressure, whatever, I'm not an aerodynamicist, but they figured out a way to basically keep the rear tire wake away from the diffuser, which inevitably pushes it out to the car behind.
Yep.
So unlike 2022, where they took some time to figure this out, they've immediately figured out how to fuck up the car behind. So well done, FIA. Good job on these regulations. And can I say, I'm glad that we will have an amazingly shit regulation set because it's brought Audi in to have a team that already existed anyway. Good job. Thanks.
4 years
brilliant.
of this, by the way. And this is the start of the regulations where the cars cannot follow each other. And because the tires are probably going to be on the conservative side, so there aren't going to be more than 1 pit stops. So we are looking at processional races. There's one maybe a factor which is probably going to play a bit of a role to increase overtakes, and that's going to be the braking distances have increased. And it's not increased because they've reduced the size of brakes or anything, because they are managing the brakes. That's all. Otherwise, the braking distance earlier, it used to be much less. Now it's almost twice of that. So you'll have more to play around on that front. Maybe that helps, and maybe that makes drivers,
if they run out of battery, you know.
This is where we are.
This is going to be DRS, but worse, isn't it? Because I've been complaining for a long time that I'm like, I've been complaining for a long time that I'm like, with DRS now, essentially they just all wait and do passes on the straight, so we don't get many lunges into corners and like exciting races through corners. This is going to be that, but on steroids, basically, where it's just like, I'll just wait till his battery runs out.
If you're late braking, you are essentially eating up power that you shouldn't eat up.
Yeah, great. This sounds super exciting. I really hope this isn't the case. I really do, because like there's no upside to this. There's none, because like the entire point of this was to get manufacturers in. They didn't. They got one new manufacturer in Cadillac, right? No, Audi bought a team. I'm sorry. I don't care if there's a different engine. I don't care if there's a different engine in the back. It's still just the same. Like, we didn't get any extra team, right? We just got a new team, or we got one new team in Cadillac, right? But to be honest, that has nothing to do with the regulations, because Andretti was going to come in with Cadillac regardless of the regulations. Like they have wanted to come in for ages. They were planning to do this. If the regulations weren't changing, they would have come in anyway. So like essentially, we got all of these compromises to just have Audi branding on a Sauber. Brilliant. Well done at Formula One. Good job. Fucking amazing. If this sport is ruined by this, I won't do anything, but I will be really angry about it. Which is the way humans work now. We don't do anything, but we get very angry while not doing it.
Yeah.
That is welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We will complain and complain and complain and not do anything about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fuck. Tell me something.
We can't end on this note. There must be something fun to talk about.
Oh yeah, there will be. I'll get to that. Tell me something, because does Formula One not know what its product is? For me, the biggest question here is, and you know, this is something that has bothered me a bit for the last year or so, because last year at least there were alarms that they are not getting the kind of racing that they should. They're getting that racing this time around, and they're hoping to get that kind of racing this time around. But if they don't really have any band-aid to put. The DRS is gone. And secondly, the boost, I don't think it's going to help on the straights. It might help in the short straights that we have, but it's I'm so worried of what we're going to get. And the problem is, in all of this, what is Formula One doing? Why does it think that it can just sell the sport by bringing on celebrities and just having these random collaborations with influencers? That's it. That's it? That's it for us.
You know what annoys me the most about this is, like, I feel like they just, for some reason, they got it in their heads that, hey, we have to have new manufacturers in, right? And it's like, manufacturers are what makes the sport great. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, the best teams of the past 20 years have, apart from Ferrari, haven't been manufacturers when you think about it. Like, they are car manufacturers, but they actually started as F1 teams, if you know what I mean. Like, Mercedes, you could say, is the outlier, but Mercedes own 30%. Like, it's a racing team. So, like, yeah, but bringing these manufacturers in doesn't make any difference to me.
Isn't it? Don't you think 4 years is a big... We are stuck with these regulations for 4 years, at least. 26, 27, 28, 29. Yeah. And I'd be surprised... First of all, right now, again, we haven't even seen a single race, so we might end up being entirely wrong.
Maybe.
The race, yeah.
I hope we are, for
I
reference.
Fucking hope, because honestly, it's important. But in case we are not wrong and we are accurate, I'd be surprised if we stick with these regulations for 4 years. Because if this is the state right now, within a year, a couple of years or so, what are we going to get? It's going to be ridiculous. And we've essentially reached a point where we'll have racing similar to what we had in 2010, where there will be nothing to aid overtaking, because I don't think the boost is going to be enough, whatever the overtake or whatever it is called right now. I don't think it is going to be enough. I really don't. And if the drivers are just managing the car throughout, you're killing the spectacle. Monaco would look rubbish.
That's my bigger worry, is that, like, I'm not actually worried about, like, them not having overtake aids. I'm worried about the even opposite of that, which is I'm worried that the overtaking will be done because of poor management by a driver, as opposed to, like, driving skill. Like, it'll just be, like, say Lando Norris sits behind Max for long enough, and then Max makes one mistake out of a corner by not charging the battery, and now all of a sudden Lando just takes off into the distance. And, like, that's not good racing. That's just like, oh, he had more electrical energy than him, so he won. Like, that's not what I want to see in racing. So Yeah, I don't know. I said from the start with this Audi thing, I was like, I really hate the idea that they're compromising the entire sport just to go, oh, we got some new manufacturers in. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I've no it doesn't like, oh, it's more road relevant. It's like, I don't give a shit. Like, you know, it's not. Formula One engines have never been road relevant. Yeah, exactly.
This isn't even road relevant, right? It's nothing. What's the future? What direction will in future? What direction?
This is what Volkswagen
wanted,
general? Basically. So
even fuck Volkswagen. I mean, even if we keep that aside, what's the sports direction in the next few years?
Going back to V8s apparently. So it's like, why are we going through this? Like, what was the point of this?
Yeah.
Like, what was the end game here? It just never feels like there's any. What it sums up is it just feels like they do not give a shit about the fans. And like, if the V8 thing is weird to me, it's kind of almost like, hey guys, sorry we fucked up so much, now we'll do something for the fans, let's bring V8s back.
I don't get that either. I don't think it makes even sense to go to V8s, right?
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah,
because
I don't know,
because that Formula One is what? Formula One is cutting edge technology, and using that technology to produce the best spectacle. If we start the Australian Grand Prix, and on the starting line, if half the cars don't even get off the line, that's not the cutting edge technology. They've set their targets too high to a point where it's risky. Let's see what happens. Because
I can give you the what way will I put this? I could give you the Daily Wire reasoning behind why Formula One's
what's Daily Wire?
Ben Shapiro's network.
Okay. Yeah. What's the
I think
reasoning?
it's obvious. It's obvious that Formula One has been captured by the left-wing, ultra-extreme, climate change woke agenda, and that is the reason why we can't have good things anymore.
Yeah, for people who don't know, for people who don't know Ben Shapiro, just run the last clip at 1.5x. I think that's how he sounds in general. I don't think it's even got to do anything with that, right?
It's not that, but it is down to the fact that for some reason it went on this like ultra. The left wing thing was a joke, but like this ultra sustainable approach, because that
I don't think there's any problem by being
sure you have to be
pro sustainability.
Well, no, I will say no. You can be pro sustainability, but like they went to it in complete tunnel vision. I think to a point where like they listened to say Volkswagen again, and they were like, right, this is the path that the industry is going in, so we have to follow that. Let's go. And then they ended up with something that doesn't actually give us good racing or follow what the industry is doing. Yeah. So they ended up with something that was just a compromise in the middle of nothing.
Sustainable fuel costs 10 times your...
Which makes it unsustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous amount of money that is being spent on fuels.
For reference, for anyone watching, it was $20 to $30 a litre for the last regulations that were E10. It is now $200 to $300 dollars per litre, which is insane.
Let's see. Okay, on the positive side, at least we have got 4 teams. There's going to be just to make one thing clear, because again, look, the people that watch our podcast, they're mostly hardcores. They are not your typical very very
from the comments I've seen,
fans, right?
Yeah,
so
it seems that way.
If you're a very very casual fan, no pun intended, in that case, it's not going to be much difference for you. You're still going to see racing. You're still going to see fast cars. The action is not going to be too different for you, other than the flaps will be moving, and that's all. And look, I've been in that. I've seen that thing up close as well, because in 2014 we had something similar. And people, the fans that have just started following the sport, they won't be able to understand that the complexity of moving from V8s, the naturally aspirated V8s, to V6 turbos was immense. Even at that point, people found it hard to understand. Like for me, I remember the Canadian Grand Prix, right, where I think it was the MG UK that failed for both Lewis and Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now for me, I was able to understand that. But now my flatmates, they were sitting there. They couldn't make sense of what the fuck happened. And while I tried to explain it to them, I just couldn't. It's these things.
Good look in these regulations.
Right? And this is going to be a 10 times more complex thing from V6 turbos. So we've been through these phases. And what's going to happen is each team, they're going to find the optimum way of power regeneration, and they're going to drive a certain way to achieve that. So for us, as in a very casual viewer who looks at a car, he won't be able to tell the difference between the two things. Essentially, what we are at is the drivers won't be happy, the hardcores won't be happy, the casuals would be unable to see the difference, but the overall product, it's going to be worse, because what we want close racing, we want close action. I don't think we'll have that because the cars can't follow. And that's the first thing they were supposed to fix, and they haven't. So
that's what annoys me the most, is like the entire reason for the 2022 regulations were fix the racing, and then they just kind of gave up on that to get manufacturers in or something. Like I don't get it. Doesn't it just?
Do you think Liberty is cashing out?
Yeah, I just think they don't. I don't know. I just don't think they really understand who actually pays for their sport. Maybe like I don't think they get it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But
they do. We don't get it. That's the thing. We don't get it.
Yeah, I guess the biggest problem here is like everything else in the world, where we'll keep showing up regardless, right? We'll be disappointed, but we'll keep being there. Like I can be incredibly frustrated all year, but it's Formula One. I've watched it for so long now that I'm not going to stop.
Staple.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So,
yep.
It's just disappointing. I'm really hoping this is not the case, and I hope we get to race one and it turns out that like actually this gives us some amazing racing. I'm just getting a bit worried now, because this week I wasn't that worried last week. This week I'm, after seeing the cars on track for an hour a day, fuck you FIA and FOM again, but anyway, makes no sense. But that to me as well was like, we're more worried about our manufacturers and our teams than we are about the fans again, because there was no reason not to show that.
Fans are just taken for granted in this case, right?
The other thing that has pissed me off recently as well is caring more about the minority of fans who actually show up to races than the majority of fans who watch from home. I've noticed more and more of that too, which pisses me off.
Fans don't show up to races. Do you think, if you've seen the ticket prices, do you think normal fans can show up to races anymore?
I tell you what, normal fans do, but most normal fans who show up to races are ones who save up all year to go to that and then watch it from home for the rest of the year, because they're absolute diehard fans. Yeah. And the rest of the people who show up are people with just cash who just want to be seen at a race. They want to put on Instagram that they were at a race, and that's it.
It's just Vogue. That's the whole thing now. It's in the culture. That's all.
And it seems like F1 recently cares more about those people and more about manufacturers than it does about diehard fans. And again, I'm not going to stop watching, which I probably should do because I have this opinion, but it is really disappointing. Like, it's really disappointing. Yep. You know,
I'm not a fan of these rigs.
That's one thing I loved about, like, say what you will about them as their on-track performances, who they were. Schumacher and Vettel were always super outspoken about stuff like this, and that's one thing I kind of miss. Max as well, to be fair. Lewis is too busy being grateful, so I'm not sure how he feels. But
he's not happy. He's not happy, right?
He's not.
The cars, GP2 cars.
To be fair, Lewis does speak for the fans a lot as well. Like, I am just joking there. Like, but I really wish someone would give out about it more, because Stefano and Liberty have made it clear that they don't give a shit about normal fans. So fair enough. Like, you know,
cool. I'll take the temperature down even more. So lovely podcast.
Yeah. Basically. So how was your F1 podcast this week? We spent 25 minutes talking about how much we hate F1.
Hit subscribe.
Yeah. If you'd like to hate F1 for 24 races a season, click subscribe.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So this was something that was it popped up a bit on X, but the post went viral on Threads. The whole thing where I specifically mentioned that if Toto is accurate in claiming that Red Bull has the best power unit and the best car, then I think the only person responsible for this and who should be credited is Christian Horner. And if there is a team that is not winning on the current grid, they should hire him immediately. Mm-hmm. And again, look, first of all,
I'm sure you got a lot of reasonable responses on X, for example, about
all
that.
Of them. All of them were reasonable. And the response were, he's a sex pest. Someone said that I don't have the right morals. Then another person said that if you are fan of a toxic person, a part of a toxic team, then you should not be following a sport like Formula One, etc., etc., etc.
Whoa. Do they understand the history of Formula One?
Exactly.
This is a sport funded by cigarettes and Bitcoin, run by a man who was on the Epstein list. Like, what are we? What? I'm sorry. If you're not toxic, like, you need to be toxic to watch Formula One. What is wrong with these people?
Yep.
Like,
So, cause
this is our heritage we're talking about here.
and funnily, at that very point, what's his name? The Ineos guy, the Manchester United owner.
Malaysian-y. Oh
No.
That's
Radcliffe.
Yeah, Radcliffe. Yeah.
Yeah. So as soon
I'm
as
thinking
this
of Petronas.
happened-
Sorry, my bad.
No. So the Radcliffe, he essentially made an anti-immigrant, a very far right statement, right? Recently in a Sky Sports interview, and
Not very surprising. Anyway,
yeah, I mean,
it is Radcliffe
He has
after
a history
all.
of that. Right?
Yeah.
So
He's British, right? That's what they do.
Sure.
I'm Irish. Just pointing that out.
Yep. So once he did that again, that specific comment. So first of all, the people who hate Christian Horner, first of all, wannabe moral people. Second, Lewis Hamilton fans. Third, Mercedes fans. So I just took the clip, took the link and just shared it with those people. Like, what's your view on this? None of them replied. Why? Most of them were Mercedes fans or Lewis Hamilton fans, etc., etc. The problem that a lot of people don't understand is Formula One as a sport, it is toxic to the core. And when we talk about Christian Horner and when we are saying that, okay, he should be part of this team, we are not Christian Horner fans as a person. None of these people are great people in general. These aren't the kind of people who we would sit with and have drinks or anything. They aren't that good people. They are just great at their jobs. And essentially what happens is we differentiate how they are as people and how they are in a particular area which we are talking about. So when we're talking about Formula One, when Jason talks about Flavio, who's a cunt of a human being, he's a
Incredible
fucking
team
good
principal,
boss.
though.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, two things. I've really gotten annoyed with this, like, in general, and I'm not going to touch like too much outside of F1 because, we
No, go
argue
for
about
it.
that all the
We are
time.
almost
but,
done
like,
with it.
but my point is, like, people just seem to think like two things can't be true at once. It's like, Christian Horner, you can think is like a horrible human being who like cheat on his wife and all these things. You can have that.
by the way.
Yeah,
He
and
did.
you can have that opinion, and like we don't know the ins and outs of their marriage. Maybe they're okay with that. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, whatever. That's
Rich
I
people
don't
should.
know. Yeah, but my point is, like, you can have the opinion that he's like a perverted sex pest, but also say he's an incredible team principal. Like, those things are not mutually like
They don't mutually
they don't
exclusive.
Yeah, okay. So my point is, like, you can say both of the things at once. Like, for example, like if someone that would be like me going, well, Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile, so he couldn't have been a good tax attorney. It's like, no, he apparently was very good with taxes. That has nothing to do with the fact that well, maybe not. But the point is, like, that has nothing to do with whether or not he was running some sort of weird trafficking ring. You know what I mean? Like, those two things don't have to conflict, is my point. They're completely separate from one another in terms of opinions. Now, I'm not, just for the record, if Christian is watching, I'm not comparing you to Jeffrey Epstein. I was just taking
First
an
of all, if
extreme
Christian is
example.
watching, we invite you. An open invitation.
Yeah, we're huge fans. Of Christian Horner, not Jeffrey Epstein. I want to make that very clear. But my point is, like,
after
those.
calling him a cheat in his married life, we are saying we're huge fans, by the way.
I didn't actually. I said maybe he had an arrangement. The point is, like, I just don't get why people can't have nuanced conversations anymore. Like, you can deeply dislike a person but still talk about how amazing they were. Like, I think we used to talk about this all the time as humans. Like, we used to basically always say, like, oh yeah, like, I would never work for Steve Jobs. Horrible human being to most of the people he worked for. But I am fucking hugely respectful of what he was able to achieve. Like, look at these things he built. Like, I have huge respect for that. But as a person, not a huge fan. But we don't seem to be able to do that anymore. It's like, oh, I don't like him as a person, so therefore everything he's done in his life is completely and utterly useless. And it's like, how did we get to this? Like, I don't.
I'll share a very, very small link. And ultimately, if you are such a self-righteous person, you probably shouldn't follow Formula One, because let's go through it.
Yeah.
No, let's go through it. Flavio Briatore race, he fixed the race. Everyone knows that. You know who he hangs out with most of the time during the summers? Stefano
Toto
Domenicali.
Wolff.
And Toto Wolff. Fucking hell. And Toto Wolff. So again, Toto Wolff is gone because, again, Mercedes is gone. That's one team that's gone. Which is the team that Saudi Arabia
Mercedes
finds.
also Heil Hitler during World War II. So if you want to go down that route, you know, and used forced labor and then lied about it afterwards. You can't blame them for using forced labor because they would have been forced to by the regime, but you can blame them for covering it up and not apologizing afterwards.
Exactly.
So
This will happen,
there you
by
go.
the way, right?
We're going to talk about Audi and Volkswagen. Do we really want to go down that route?
Exactly.
We want to talk about Red Bull. It's a Thai company in a country where a lot of weird stuff there. Ferrari. Mussolini's friends. Like, where are we going to stop this? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. And McLaren, who owns McLaren, by the way? Bahrain.
Yeah, Bahrain. Yeah, exactly. Aston Martin, mostly owned by
Saudi
Saudis now.
Yeah.
Turns out Khashoggi was CIA though, so I'm not that worried about
Which
it
team
anymore.
is left, by the way? Which team is left? I think we went through
I think Willie. I mean, like, you could say
Haas. He's a Donald Trump supporter. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And
plus,
then who else is there?
Gene Haas spent his life automating workers out of jobs. So there, you could say that as well.
Yep.
You want to talk about Williams? Williams, actually, you know, one of the most decent ones, but Frank Williams, bit of a dick. I feel bad for saying that because
leave him aside.
You know,
James Walls, who is he closely associated with? Toto Wolff.
Jeffrey Epstein.
And who is Toto?
Sorry.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And Toto Wolff, who is he closely associated with?
Jeffrey
Flavio
Epstein.
Briatore. Fucking hell. Flavio Briatore is Flavio Briatore, who is he closely associated with? Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
There
it
you
all
go.
roads lead back.
joins,
Yeah. But like also as well, like
Guilty by
Flavio
association.
Briatore was a twice convicted criminal before
Money laundering,
joining
and there was one more, corruption or
before joining
theft or
Benetton,
something.
right?
During Benetton days, yeah.
No, it was before joining Benetton, I believe. So
No,
like
during Benetton.
during well, that's even worse in some
Yeah.
ways. And then you've got Max Mosley who ran orgies. And the only thing he said wasn't true was they were not Nazi themed. If someone accuses you of going to an orgy and your response is, yeah, but they weren't Nazi themed, you've got a real problem on your hands, right?
Yep.
Then we got Bernie Ecclestone, who ran the sport for decades. It wouldn't be a sport without Bernie Ecclestone.
Look, like we won't even go to that far. We won't even go that far behind.
Oh,
look
and
at
the cigarette companies.
I mean, leave that. I'll even go.
No. But there's a worse thing than the cigarettes. When it came to the 90s and everyone said yes, so cigarettes, we're banning them. Like, you know, they're killing people. It's time to
2006,
crack down.
right?
No, but this is what's worse. It's time to crack down on cigarettes, yeah? In 1997, basically every other sport, they banned cigarette advertising, yeah? And old Bernie went to Tony Blair and said, listen, basically our whole sport is built on cigarette and alcohol advertising. And they were given an exemption, an exclusive exemption for 9 years. So, yeah, like it now runs on crypto. And might I add, if we want to get into this as well, Mercedes, your favorite team, Christian Horner haters, who was one of the biggest backers of that team from crypto world? Was it the SBX? Or what was his name? SB, whatever. The guy who was running drug-induced weird things on islands. Yeah. Whatever his name was, I've forgotten it now. It was so long ago. But yeah, so
SB. Yeah. I mean, just leave. Even if you leave that aside, 2026 calendar. There are 3 races in United States. You want to talk about United States right now? There are, I think, 4 or 5 races in Middle East. Are we seriously going to talk about Middle East at this stage?
I don't see what's wrong with the Middle East. Did I mention I'm getting money from the Saudi government now? If you are, I want to cut. Welcome to the Blatantly Saudi Arabian podcast.
Sponsored by Aramco. The point we are essentially trying to make here is, at the end of the day, if you are following Formula One, don't follow it for ethics. If you're following any sport, don't follow them for ethics or morals. This is an escape. And there's a reason why we try to keep politics and all the nonsense to a certain point is this. Respect the sport. That's it.
It's just, you either like the sport or you don't. And if you have that much of a moral saying, you shouldn't be watching it. But I would also say, like, honestly, if you're that pissed off about anything morally, like, just don't leave your house. Like, I'm sorry, but you're probably watching this on a laptop or an iPhone or something, and this was made by essentially forced labor. Like, I mean, where do you want to stop? You know what I mean? Like, sorry, Apple, I take that allegedly, and I believe you've changed that. So, Tim, I'm sorry for that. My point is, whatever you use. No, sorry, actually, fuck that, Tim. Cobalt mines in Africa. Yeah, fuck you. So my point is, yeah, like, if you're watching this podcast, you have no moral standing. So, subscribe.
Yeah. And on that bombshell, bye-bye.
I'm off to the cobalt mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Are we ending
That's
there?
it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Jesus
to.
Christ. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that was
Bye,
a bad
everybody.
By the way, there might be a guest in the next one. He just pinged.
Oh, right. Will I stop recording this now? Or?
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.